Hey, hello. Uh, Sawadika or Kapunka means thank you in Thailand. In the Thai language, tried to write it out. It's always good to learn a couple words. I guess women say Sawadika, so I'm a woman. I guess men would say Sawadikap. And thank you, Kapunka, in women would say, and men would say Kapunkap. So Kapunka and Sawadika, the greatest casualty is being forgotten. That is about veterans. So let's go ahead and finish up Gideon's sketchbook, illustrated by me, words by the Bible, by God. So we last read Gideon and the Ephraimites were arguing, and Gideon is trying to appease them and help them to calm down. And he said, Judges 8:3, God gave Oreb and Zeeb, the Midianite leaders, into your hands. Oreb and Zeeb were captured by you. You captured Oreb and Zeeb. What was I able to do compared to you? So he's being very humble. Compared to that, what have I done? You guys did well. At this, their resentment against him subsided. Their anger went down. So I like that, how Gideon was humble. Judges 8:4, Gideon and his 300 men, exhausted yet keeping up the pursuit. Gideon and his 300 men were weary but kept chasing the enemy. They came to Jordan and crossed it. 300 exhausted men and Gideon came to the Jordan River. He said to the men of Succoth, I'm not sure how to say that, give my troops some bread. They are worn out, and I am still pursuing Zebah and Zalmunna, the kings of Midian. Give some bread to my men. Tired Israelites, men of Succoth. Gideon and his 300 men, exhausted yet keeping up the pursuit, came to the Jordan and crossed it. He said to the men of Succoth, like Succotash, no, I'm not sure how to say that, give my troops some bread. They are worn out, and I'm still pursuing Zebah and Zalmunna, the kings of Midian. Judges 8:6, and the leaders of Succoth said, are the hands of Zebah and Zalmunna now in your hand? Have you caught them already? Are the hands of Zebah and Zalmunna's in Gideon's hands, that we should give bread to your army? Should we give you bread because you're victorious? Why should we give your troops some bread? Said the leaders of Succoth. So Gideon said, for this cause, when the Lord has delivered Zebah and Zalmunna into my hand, then I will tear your flesh with the thorns of the wilderness and with briars. Okay, Gideon is mad. Just for that, I'm going to come back and get you with briars, with thorns. So it gets ugly. And the leaders of Succoth said, are the hands of Zebah and Zalmunna now in your hand, that we should give bread to your army? Gideon said, for this cause, when the Lord has delivered Zebah and Zalmunna into my hand, then I will tear your flesh with the thorns of the wilderness and with briars. Judges 8:8. Then he went up from there to Penuel. Gideon went to Penuel, I don't know, and spoke to them in the same way. My men are tired, give them something to eat. Gideon and the men of Penuel. And the men of Penuel answered him as the men of Succoth had. No, why should we give your men food? The men of Penuel said. So he also spoke to the men of Penuel, saying, when I come back in peace, I will tear down this tower. After I return in victory, I will break down this tower. Gideon tells the men of Penuel. Then he went up from there to Penuel and spoke to them in the same way, and the men of Penuel answered him as the men of Succoth had answered. So he also spoke to the men of Penuel, saying, when I come back in peace, I will tear down this tower. Judges 8:10. Now Zebah and Zalmunna at Karkor and their armies with them, about 15,000, all who were left of all the army of the people of the east. 15,000 soldiers were all that were left of the peoples of the east. Zebah and Zalmunna and 15,000 soldiers in Karkar. For 120,000 men who drew the sword had fallen. 120,000 men had already died. Then Gideon went up by the road of these who dwell in tents on the east of Nobah and Jogbeah. Gideon went to the pathway of the nomads. Nomads are wanderers. Now Zebah and Zalmunna are Karkar, and their armies with them, about 50,000, all who were left of all the army of the people of the east. For 120,000 men who drew the sword had fallen. Then Gideon went up by the road of these who dwell in tents on the east of Nobah and Jogbeah. Judges 8:11. And he attacked the army while the camp felt secure. Surprise attack from Gideon. While Zebah and Zalmunna fled, he pursued them. Gideon chased Zebah and Zalmunna, and he took the 2 kings of Midian, Zebah and Zalmunna. Gideon caught them and routed the whole army. The Midian army panicked and went different routes, I guess, different paths. And he attacked the army while the camp felt secure. While Zebah and Zalmunna fled, he pursued them, and he took the 2 kings of Midian, Zebah and Zalmunna, and routed the whole army, or routed. Judges 8:13. Then Gideon, son of Joash, returned from battle from the ascent of Heres. Gideon returned from the ascent of Heres. Ascent means going up. And he caught a young man of the men of Succoth. Gideon and young man, or Succoth, and interrogated him. Gideon asked questions, and he wrote down for him the leaders of Succoth and its elders, 77 men. So the young man wrote down information for Gideon. So he was caught, and he let them know the leaders of Succoth and the elders. Let's read that again. Then Gideon, son of Joash, returned from battle from the ascent of Heres, and he caught a young man of the men of Succoth and interrogated him, and he wrote down for him the leaders of Succoth and its elders, 77 men. Judges 8:15. Then he came to the men of Succoth and said, Here are Zebah and Zalmunna, about whom you ridiculed me, saying, Are the hands of Zebah and Zalmunna now in your hand, that we should give bread to your weary men? The men of Succoth had made fun of Gideon before. And he took the elders of the city and thorns of the wilderness and briars, and with them he taught the men of Succoth. Gideon taught the men of Succoth a lesson. Let's read that one more time. Then he came to the men of Succoth and said, Here are Zebah and Zalmunna, about whom you ridiculed me, saying, Are the hands of Zebah and Zalmunna now in your hand, that we should give bread to your weary men? And he took the elders of the city and thorns of the wilderness and briars with them, and with them he taught the men of Succoth. Okay, so he's going a little crazy. Not crazy, sorry. Maybe we'll stop there. Then he tore down the tower of Penuel and killed the men of the city. Gideon tore down the tower. And he said to Zebah and Zalmunna, What kind of men were they whom you killed at Tabor? What were the men like? Gideon and the 2 kings, Zebah and Zalmunna. So they answered and said, As you were, so were they. Like Gideon, so were they. Each one resembled the son of a king. They were each like royalty, like Gideon. Okay, so it gets kind of violent. Why don't we finish this tomorrow? And Then he said, "They were my brothers, the son of my mother. As the Lord lives," Gideon swears by the living God, "if you had not let them live, I would not kill you." Also, we'll finish this tomorrow, and it's going to have a happy ending somewhere. God's plan is everywhere, even though it gets violent. So let's finish this tomorrow. It's an interesting story. And it ends with the good Gideon did for Israel. Okay, I'll talk to you tomorrow. Have a good day. Good blessed day.